Being a seeker, there are many paths and teachings and methods. And this is a polarity planet, so that's a great blessing. So many paths, you know. I have one teacher who said 7.6 billion religions in the world. That's what there actually is. Because everybody has their own unique interpretation of what's really going on, you know. So that's the blessing. And then the challenge, or the polarity of it, is we may get lost in the process. I was talking to somebody this week about trying to make a decision, and they were saying that they were confused. And the answer to that was, it's okay to be confused, isn't it? Like, if you're confused and there's no solution present, just be confused. It's no big deal, you know. Anybody ever told you that advice before? I didn't get much of that advice. Like, we need to know right now. Well, the more you study this stuff, the more you realize you don't know. So you could just be okay with that. You know, I like the word for God, the great mystery. It will always remain the great mystery. You know, once you think you've held it in your hand, it's something else. So the challenge is we may get lost. And we may get lost because we don't know what we're looking for. You know, you're searching for something infinite. Sounds like an absurd thing. If it's infinite, it's everywhere. But you're searching. And we know that what we're looking for is something, but we don't know what. You know, if you weren't looking for something in some way, some form, whether it's to exercise and make the body stronger, have some more peace in your life or whatever, you wouldn't be sitting here. You know, I wouldn't be sitting here either. Nobody would be here. It would still be a bike shop. This place used to be a bike shop. It looked a lot different than it does now. There was even like flames on the wall, like hot rod flames. We thought about leaving them on, but SJ opted not to, my wife. And I think it's important to acknowledge that most knowledge won't give experience. Most knowledge won't give experience. Unless we know how to translate knowledge into experience. And we continue to feel and think and imagine and believe that there's something missing. So we go on seeking. We seek and apply technology or techniques believing we're so much different from anybody else. That our story, that our problems are unique and special. Isn't it amazing when you're in a group and you start sharing your problems, all of a sudden you realize everybody is going through the exact same thing, but when you kept it to yourself, you thought it was just you. Not the exact same, but you know, within a few degrees. And with this illusion, we each go on looking for the special answer, the right technique that is just for me, the right mudra, the right meditation, the right type of diet and lifestyle that is right for our own exceptional style. But while we're doing it, we don't realize or want to realize we have more in common than we have in differences. And this repeats itself in history over and over and over. We focus on the difference. We ignore shared solutions. Even the way children are tested in our school system. Hide your answers is the philosophy. Don't share them. How could we work together on that? We can't have that. Everybody has to be their own unique self. We can't share the solutions. Well, isn't that what we need? Shared solutions? We have a tendency towards globality. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. Technology, economy, the massive sprawls of cities taking over nature, etc. Yet equally there is a drive for individualism. What's in it for me? Which causes two major significant problems. Number one, the destruction of the very planet of which we are made. We are people of the earth first and foremost. Whatever your belief system, you are a person of the earth first and foremost. I always quote this one astronaut who was around in the 1970s who said, "I would love to take a politician up to the moon and have them look down at the planet Earth," and I'm quoting him, this is not my interpretation, "and smack the person across the face and say, 'Look at that, you son of a bitch.' Because all of the separateness and I'm a this and you're a that dissolves, is gone. And then as a result of that, compassion dissolves. Guru Nanak, a great teacher in my life, he lived 500 years ago, but we're yogis, so we know we operate beyond time and space. He had this teaching where he said, "I see no stranger." That's the spiritual practice. I see no stranger. Nobody is actually different. On the surface, they are. We have different karmas and real beliefs, and but underneath, scientifically, everybody is 98.6 equatorial heat carbon. That's it. Not a man, not a woman, not a this, not a that. That's science, not philosophy. And also he taught that you should fear none and respect all. That's what I try and do every day. When I get up to do my prayers, is a reminder to fear none and respect all. And this comes from a strong sense of identity, combined with a deep reverence or humility. You have to surrender that, what's in it for me? Doesn't mean that you stop making any effort because everything is interconnected anyways. I have these deep experiences of meditation, but I still have to pay my taxes and feed my child and pay the rent on the space. I can't just pay it in mantra. But if I do the mantra, it's much easier to do my responsibilities without buying into the pressure. You have pressure in your life? Or is it just an easeful experience you're just passing through? Yeah. And humility is the ability to bow, to be a warrior and a sage, a soldier saint. And it's a matter of being ready and willing to follow some general guidelines. For example, what makes a healthy diet when we take into account the basic nature and function of the physical human body? Eat living foods. Don't eat things from a factory. Processed foods, and then wonder, like imagine that you went out into the woods and you fed a deer, one deer you fed processed foods and the other you fed living foods. How would the deer respond? You're not different than that. And research will show that what optimizes good health for a long life is more or less a universal set of guidelines. If you get past your beliefs, you'll see it. If you decide you're only going to eat red meat, and I only eat green vegetables or something, we can see the reflection of the health after a certain period of time. No matter where you're in the world, if you overeat, or if you undereat, or if you eat too much processed food, for example, processed sugar, flour, oil, salt, the results will be the same. There'll be problems. This is pretty universal. So universal guidelines can be found in terms of what constitutes a life of well-being, the health of the body. Everybody knows that, but do they want to know? We take a small problem and magnify it out of proportion and then start believing that now we have to search for some solution to the problem. And some of these problems we have to live with, and there is no solution. That's part of being part of nature. You know, it's like Ram Dass, he'd say, it's not like if I do my prayers every morning for the rest of my life that my hair will grow back. Maybe. You know, you have baldness, you're bald. That's nature. What are you going to do? You can't, you know, be nice back into hair. It doesn't work like that. And other aspects in life come from our own choosing. Some people discover a practice that works for them for reasons unexplainable, like they've done it before. You know? Have you ever experienced that? I used to have this one guy, young guy. He comes from time to time now, but he's a teenager, so he's a little cooler than when he was 8 to the class. But he could, at 8, come and sit and listen to the lecture, sit in meditation, and do the whole class. No iPad, no up and down, no bothering his mom, nothing. Where does that come from? He has to have done this before. I know, because I have a child who's going to be 6, and she's around this stuff all the time, and that is not going to happen. That's not my karma to have a child like that. It would be too easy. You know, oh, my child just does all the things that... I don't want that. That's dangerous, actually, if they just do exactly what I say. So she challenges me around every corner. And I'm thankful. Not all the time, but deep down. You know. So be it Tai Chi or yoga or some American Indian shamanic journey or whatever. Why does something appeal to me and doesn't to another person? Maybe it's past life memories. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe there's no need for explanation. It is what it is. It's not about right or wrong. This technique simply speaks to you, works for you. You feel called to that, you get into it, and you go through it. And if you find in a couple of years that it doesn't work, it's kind of exhausted, then you change it. Change your beliefs, change your practice, change your style, embracing the fact that in nature, changing is essential. The challenge is not to change it at every bump. Oh, that was hard. Must have been that's the trying to be good into no more baldness. So we learn to see the patterns and become more aware of who we are. It's like trying to recover from an addiction. If you talk to some people who are addicts, recovered addicts, very few of them will say, I realized I had a problem, so I stopped. It's a relationship that's non-linear. You have to see the good and the bad. When I do this, I've had all these wonderful experiences and all these terrible experiences. And then you create a relationship with it over time. But there needs to be a bowing. The bowing is, I have a problem. And that could be anything. It doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. It could be shopping. Could be codependency in relationships. Could be self-abuse. It could be all sorts of things where you don't acknowledge who you are. And who you are is ad such, jugad such, habi such, nanakahosi be such. You were born with infinite value. Every child is born with infinite value. And then what happens? Something tells you you're not that. Something. Even your parents told you, not on purpose. You know, I'm dealing with a lot of one-on-ones with students who have this story about they didn't realize that their parents, when they were 7, said something like, you know, oh, you don't feel too bad if you don't get the part in the play. And the child heard it as, I'm not good enough to be in a play. And all they wanted to do was be in a play. And now here they are 37 years old feeling like they're not good enough. And they can trace it all the way back to that one comment that the parent was just trying to be supportive of the child. They didn't know. It wasn't like, my child is a terrible actor, so I'm going to cut their dreams. It's not that. You know, some people are born with that, by the way, let me be clear. But it doesn't matter of your outside. You are born infinite. You have infinity your whole life. You have it even now. You bless the good in you. You see that in you. Your daily practice is to bring that out. And you see it all around you. That's why nature is a great teacher for that. There's no belief systems in nature. There's a natural order to things. There's good and bad. There's earthquakes and beautiful oases of beauty that, will take your breath away. There's both. You can't just have one. No matter how much you pray that, there's no tornadoes, there'll be tornadoes. It's just the nature of nature. And you're a part of that. So the challenge is we're living in this world of information overload, aren't we? Supermarket overload. You got to have the fruit. Doesn't matter what season it is. You got to have it, and it's $7 at Whole Foods, and it's going to create what? An imbalance. And what will the imbalance be in nature? A response. You know how nature responds to imbalance? It starts with a D. Yeah, disaster. So you start to do a practice where you align yourself more with nature. Eat locally. Grow your own food. It's good for your heart, physically, to do that. Supermarket overload, product overload, so it's more difficult to see what's best for you. But you're on a destiny path, not just a fate path. You know the difference? Fate is life is happening to you. Destiny, there's something else going on, and you start to pay attention. Who am I in relationship to what's happening around me? There's a big difference. And I know that every one of you is on the destiny path, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be here. By now you would have said, F this, and stood up and left. It happens. And people find it confusing. What do I do now? So many choices, so many paths. And so we began to talk. Well, the answer to that is the yoga practice is a process of taking things away, not adding things. Or we'll call it eliminate to illuminate. It's not becoming something. It's being less of those ideas and belief systems. Admit to yourself, am I missing much if I'm not interested in that? If I don't do that? Put it aside and continue the process of taking away as much as you can, because the things in front of you will be seen more clearly for what they actually are. By taking away, not by becoming. That's why the old master said, be more childlike. That's a process of taking away. Not more childish. That's more adding to. I want the toy. Please, can I have the toy? Lots of that in my house. But it takes away some of the fog. Some of the background mist. What stands in front of you can be seen more vividly, and you can identify what's appropriate for you. You know how you do that? We call it sunye in this practice. Through deep listening. How do you deep listen? If I'm on my phone, say my wife's talking to me, and I'm on my phone, and I'm thinking about what to say next, and I'm talking to my daughter at the same time as her, am I listening to her? No. So what do you need to do in order to deeply listen to yourself? Take the noise away. You know a good time to do it? First thing in the morning, when it's quiet. Then you may get a glimpse of, oh, I see who I am. And then when you're amongst all the information, product overload, supermarket overload, information overload, you remember, oh yeah, I'm not all of this, and you can navigate through it. Or imagine that you're doing work at your desk. Say you sit down to do some work at your desk, and you have some tasks to accomplish. You've got to send some emails, maybe send some letters, make some phone calls, that kind of thing. Isn't that a process of taking away? You've got the list of things to do. You're taking them away. If you don't do it, how do you feel? It's hard to be you, isn't it? You're thinking about, oh, I should have, oh, I should have, oh, I should, oh, I should, oh. But if you take them all away, there's a lightness that comes with that. It's all exterior. And then when there's all that exteriorness going on, what are you unable to listen to? Your intuition. You start taking advice from other people, you know. If you ever had a baby before, all of a sudden, everybody is the wise master. Everyone. Complete strangers have stepped into the role of the wise master.
Same with dogs.
Yeah, right. You see? You have to navigate that with some understanding that I know the answer. And you listen and you're present, but you're not swayed. And that's what this practice is all about. To develop the balance, we do this practice of deep listening. We don't get overloaded with that super overflow of information. It takes training. You can't just think positive. It won't work. You know, when the pressure's on, you take action from a place of clarity. That takes training. All right, stand up.